Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 78 of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. Today, episode 78 on 7 8, July the 8th. So, super cool to drop that episode today, how that worked out. But I cannot wait for you to hear today's guest. OU softball, PA announcer, and many other things, Taylor Maples. But before we get there, let's thank our show sponsors and run through a quick Sooner headlines of the week. This show is sponsored by Marvin's Place, a fine art gallery and listening room located in the Depot District in Ardmore, Oklahoma. Come experience amazing artwork, and on Friday nights, visit the Listening Room, an intimate and unplugged venue. We host singer and songwriters on Friday evenings from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Relax with a glass of wine or craft beer and enjoy some wonderful music. You can find out more, including links to their social media, music calendar, and all artwork and jewelry available at the gallery on their website at marvinsplace.gallery. Also, thank you to Therapy to Go in Ardmore, the funnest place in town to drive through for a drink, and you don't even have to get out of your car. They have a large variety of spirits as well as fountain drinks and snacks, and you can find them on Facebook and Instagram at Therapy to Go Ardmore. And be sure and give them a call for your call ahead order, and they will have it ready for you and put it right into your car when you get there. And tell them that Larissa from Sooner Girl Sports Pod sent you for a free gift. Okay, I'm hitting the road this Thursday, July the 9th, to head to the Oklahoma City Spark softball game versus the Utah Talons. That is Jada Coleman's team. They will be playing at Oklahoma Christian University, Tom Heath Field. This Thursday night, July the 7th at 7 o'clock is game time. I will be there in Section A in the grandstand in the shade. If you are going to be there, please give me a shout on social media. I would love to meet you and say hello. I'm at Sooner Girl Pod on all socials, so I hope that you'll go give me a follow everywhere and give me a shout if you are going to be at that event this week. Okay, on to this week's Sooner headlines of the week. Not a lot going on, but a few fun things to update you on. First of all, the SEC Network is doing their university takeover for the month of July, and OU will be on next Monday, July the 13th. The network takeover runs daily through July 18th, with each of the 16 SEC schools programming a dedicated 24-hour block of their greatest athletic and championship moments from the past school year. So you want to mark your calendars for next Monday, July the 13th, and catch all of the special OU moments from this past season. Also, the definition of an everything school, OU athletics was on another level this year, finishing number 7 and the CBS Sports College Athletic Rankings. Dominance in every sport across the board, not just one and not just a few, but every sport. Here are a few things that earned us those points. Football became bowl eligible in NCAA tournament for our basketball. Also a bowl win, round of 32, and regional finals scored us points as well. CFP appearance, Sweet 16, and Super appearances, CFP quarters, Elite 8, College World Series, and CFP semifinals, Final Four, and College World Series semifinals, as well as a national runner-up team with our men's gymnastics, and national champions. We had 2 of those with our baseball team and our women's gymnastics. So super cool. OU being recognized by CBS Sports college athletic rankings at number 7. Okay, as this episode drops on Wednesday, July the 8th, it is only 58 days until kickoff. That has been moved up a day since our kickoff time got moved up to Friday, September the 4th. So in case you missed that, mark your calendars. We have an evening kickoff at 7 p.m. on Friday, September 4th, to have a little bit longer of a Labor Day weekend. So I hope you can get off work and catch us at the Palace to open up the season in 58 days. Also, good luck to our men's basketball assistant coach Justin Scott this week as he coaches the St. Vincent and Grenadines in the FIBA American Caribbean pre-qualifiers. Also, don't forget to vote for Faith Torres, our women's gymnast, for her ESPY award that she was nominated for. You can find that link on the OU Women's Gymnastics social media platforms. Also, sending good luck to our men's gymnast Ignacio Yockers as he competes in the Spanish Artistic Gymnastics Championships this week as well. Also, shout out to former Sooner baseballer Cade Cavalli, who had a career high 13 strikeouts on the mound this past week. We have lots of Sooners doing great things beyond the diamond at OU, and it's so fun to keep up with them. So be sure you follow OU baseball social media, as well as myself at Sooner Girl Pod on all platforms. I will update you on all the fun things we see about all of our former Sooners across the board. Also, great news as it was announced that the Sooners will return their entire rotation from the championship run with Xander Mercurius, Nick Waslowski, and Cord Rager. And for those wondering, it's a very good sign of the support of OU baseball is getting in the Roger Denny era. So great sign. Super news coming out from the baseball program and looking forward to that. Also on the baseball front, OU adds JUCO transfer from the portal outfielder Cameron Yearsley. Last season, he hit .464 with 37 home runs and 99 RBIs in 58 games played. Also, an update on a few of our players who have entered the portal. Left-handed pitcher Cameron Johnson entered the portal. He is a former LSU arm who logged 53 innings with a 4.56 ERA for the Sooners this season. Also, it was just announced that Michael Catalano has committed to TCU from the portal. Former Sooner Alec Blair to Texas A&M. And Drew Dickerson to Florida. Also, congrats to former Sooner softballer and graduate assistant coach Riley Ludlam for being named assistant coach of hitting at Georgia Southern softball. Also, be sure and check OU Soccer social media to check out their schedule, mark your calendar, and make sure you get out to John Crane Field to support the girls this season. I will be making an appearance at a couple of games, so I will update you on those times and dates when it gets closer. Also, congratulations to our current Sooner tennis player Zoe Epps for winning the ITA Summer Master Series at SMU this past week. Also, we have several men's and women's Sooners on tour, including our recent grad Luis Alvarez, Johan Rodriguez, current Sooner, Azahi Arizaki, Tito Chavez, who is an incoming freshman, as well as several other former Sooners, including Jordan Hazan, one of my favorites who graduated in 24. And on the women's side, Eda Momendova, our sophomore, Gloriana Nahum, former Sooner Dana Guzman, and our current senior Chloe Noel, as well as several other Sooners are on tour this week for our tennis players. You can check OU women's and men's tennis social media for all of the information. Also, huge news on the golf front this week. We had a lot going on the men's and women's side with golf. So first of all, congratulations to Coach Vero, our head girls golf coach. She and her team clinched a nail biter at the Arnold Palmer Cup this past weekend as Team International edged out the U.S. to win that at Tralee Golf Links. The Internationals have won 2 in a row now, and the event will return to the stateside next year at Cherry Hills. But congratulations to Coach Vero for that accomplishment coaching Team International. Also, former Sooner Chris Gotterup has had 3 victories on the course this year as he just won the John Deere Classic this past weekend. He is officially the winningest Sooner in the PGA Tour. After he won this past weekend, it was his 3rd win of the season while carding a final round score of 64 or lower. No player in the last 40 years has had 3 wins in the same PGA Tour season with a final round score of 64 or better. Also, don't forget we have lots of club sports at OU. We have hockey, women's lacrosse, our women's flag football team, who is debuting this fall, as well as many others. So be sure and check social media. Give me a follow at Sooner Girl Pod. I share all of that information on their schedules and their teams. We have another lacrosse player coming up on the podcast next week. So be sure and give all of those teams a follow so you can stay up to date on their schedules and other news. Okay, for my Sooner MVPs of the week, first of all, Zoe Epps, our current Sooner, who won the ITA Summer Master Series this past weekend. Also, Coach Vero for the Palmer Cup Championship, and Chris Gotterup for his 3 victories on the PGA Tour this season. Okay, to end this segment with the Sooner fun fact of the week, Andre Metzger is an OU wrestler who won back-to-back national championships in his last 2 seasons in the Crimson and Cream. He was only 19 years old when he earned a bronze medal at the 1979 World Championships, and at the time becoming the youngest American to medal at Worlds. So thank you all again so much for listening today, for tuning in, for all of your support. Remember, go give me a follow on all platforms at Sooner Girl Pod. Be sure and go check out SoonerGirl.BigCartel.com and snatch all of your summer necessities. I've got stickers, koozies, hats, tank tops, and all kinds of styles and colors and sizes. And you might want to go ahead and grab a hoodie and a sweatshirt and start preparing for fall, as we know that we're all ready for it and it will be here before we know it. Also, girls, don't forget Locker Room. If you want to join in on our chat group, our online monthly huddles, you get a 10% discount on merch. I do giveaways as well as other fun things. You can find all of that information on my Substack. And also, while you're on Substack, be sure and subscribe to the Playbook newsletter. That's my monthly recap newsletter that comes out at the end of every month. You can sign up for that for free. And again, make sure you're following on all social media platforms, all podcast platforms, share with a friend, and make sure you're downloading and subscribing and all the fun things. Also, advertising sponsorship opportunities are available if you would like to email me at soonergirlsportspod@gmail.com. You can find all of this information and more linked in my link tree, which is my link in bio on all of my social media accounts. Okay, on to my conversation with this week's amazing guest, Taylor Maples. We recorded this right after softball season. And so in the video at the 24:50 mark, you can see him showing his shadow box where he's talking about the Dane Acker no-hitter in 2020 that he got to call at Globe Life with the baseball team, as well as his parting remarks on OU softball and their culture, and just what we need to hear after a shortened softball season for sure. So I hope that you enjoy my conversation with him. Taylor is the public address announcer for OU softball since 2021. He has also previously done baseball, women's basketball, volleyball, and the internal PA for football. He's also done television and radio for baseball, basketball, tennis, wrestling, and softball. He jokes that he's the utility guy and Toby Rowland's stunt double, which we talk about in the show. Before coming to OU, he worked at Colorado College, University of Denver, the Citadel, and several other collegiate institutions. His grandfather was a lifelong Sooner fan, especially for women's sports. He grew up in Colorado, but when he moved to Oklahoma, he loved having that connection with OU that he shared from his grandfather as he was growing up. And his favorite Sooner memory is the Kinsey Hansen home run over Clemson to clinch our ticket to the Women's College World Series 3 years ago, and also him hanging out with Toby Keith after the 2024 Women's College World Series win. We talk about all of this and more, as well as him talking about his trip to the College World Series in 2022 with Toby to be a color analyst. You can also find out more information about Taylor on his website at taylormaples.com. And be sure to follow him on Twitter and Instagram at @T_Maples. I will link his website and social media in the show notes, as well as tag him in all the things throughout the week. And I hope that you enjoy my conversation with Taylor Maples. It was such a fun one. And next week we have women's lacrosse player Gracie Johnson. Also coming up for the rest of July, I have golfer Audrey Risher, as well as SEC Media Days recap with the guys from Sooner Scoop. Looking forward to that one. I have another great slate coming up in August, including an Omaha episode with several baseball guys I've been recording with, about 10, 15, 20-minute segments with several different guys. I will compile into one big episode coming at the 1st of August, so you won't want to miss that one. Again, just make sure you're giving me a follow so you don't miss any of that information and when it's going to drop. So I hope you guys enjoy my conversation with Taylor Maples, and I will see you next Wednesday where we talk sports. I'm so excited to talk to you because as your bio said, you've done so much stuff. And of course, a lot of people recognize your face or your voice at least. And so I know you have a lot of great stories to tell. And one thing I wanted to say first is, you mentioned your favorite Sooner memories, and one of those being the Kinsey Hansen home run. Well, that actually popped up in my memories today. So it was 3 years ago today. And isn't that crazy? Because that's one of my favorite moments also. I was not at that game, but I was on vacation. I was on the beach listening in my AirPods, listening to Plank, and I will never forget where I was and what I was doing and all the things. So that's one of my moments. So when you said that and that popped up in my memories today, I was like, this is crazy.
One of my favorite things is posting. Obviously, I'm active on social media, but one of the reasons I do that is I love getting the memories.
Yes,
a year
me too.
ago, 2 years ago.
Yes.
That's more than anything is probably why I post as much as I do.
Same.
So I get a reminder of kind of, yeah, wow, look at how far we've come over the last 3 years, something like that.
Absolutely. Yes, I have had a lot of memories showing up this past week from supers in years past, of course, and getting ready for the World Series, which obviously is a little bittersweet today, but but nevertheless, we have so much to be thankful for.
We really do. We're spoiled.
We absolutely are. And I think people don't realize that. We just take it for granted and get used to it and expect it. And then when it doesn't happen, we get mad.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you got started doing what you're doing. I know you mentioned you had a radio show, and obviously your voice is heard throughout many stadiums, and you've done stuff for the Oklahoma City Spark before as well. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into that and just some of your favorite times and stadiums that you've gone to and things like that?
Yeah, I think I've been doing this as long as I can remember, to be honest. Even just in preparing to chat with you today, I was trying to think back, and some of my earliest memories of being around sports involved paying attention to the public address announcer. I grew
Uh-huh.
up in Colorado Springs. We went to a lot of Denver sports. Huge Colorado Rockies fan, big
Yes.
Colorado Avalanche fan. I grew up a Broncos fan. And we would go to all the games. And when I was young, the same guy was doing the PA announcing for all of those venues. And
Wow.
I didn't realize that really. And I
Uh-huh.
also didn't realize how unique that was. Just in
Yes.
my mind, when you went to a sporting event, that was the atmosphere. And that's
Right.
how the voice that was announcing sounded. And his name's Alan Roach. He is the greatest of all time in PA. He does every Super Bowl. He's currently the voice of the Avalanche
That's
and the
amazing.
Minnesota Vikings. He
Wow.
does like they fly him around the world for all of the NFL games in London, and he does like Olympic opening ceremonies, and he's just
How
like
cool.
the gold standard for PA.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so I was in high school when the Rockies made their World Series run.
Okay.
And that was the first time in my life as a baseball player that we got to pick our own walk-up songs. And so I remember all my high school teammates, we like would burn CDs with our own walk-up
Oh,
songs,
yes. Yes.
and we had CDs burned with all like the Rockies walk-up songs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny and silly to talk about, but we would literally drive around town in high school just listening to these walk-up songs, doing our favorite, like our best Alan Roach impressions in the
I
car.
love it.
So that's, I think, really where it got started for me. My undergrad degree is in sports management,
Uh-huh.
and I had to do an internship for that. And I spent a couple of summers because I just fell in love with the place out at the Ripken Experience in Myrtle Beach, South
Oh,
Carolina.
okay.
And it's like a youth baseball complex. They would
Mm-hmm.
have 60 plus teams a week come through.
Wow.
They treated every one of their games like a minor league game with on-field promotions
That's
and
cool.
public address announcing. And so part of your responsibilities there was to do PA announcing. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the first time I did it, quote unquote, professionally. And then I came back to school that year and started doing it for all of the Division II sports that I could fit around a baseball schedule. So I did
Right.
football, I did basketball and volleyball, and kind of one thing led to another. And over the years, opportunities grew, and I've been really fortunate to do some cool sports for some cool schools. Some of my favorite, besides OU, I've gotten to do like college hockey in the past, which is just
Awesome.
an electric sport.
Yes.
I spent a couple of years as the fill-in guy for the Oklahoma City Dodgers in town, and that was a
Awesome.
really neat experience just because it's pro baseball.
Yes. Yes.
But OU is just on another level, and I truly pinch myself every time I get to go be a part of that.
I can imagine for sure. And I know, like you said, you grew up in Colorado, but your grandfather was an OU fan from Oklahoma. So that's kind of how you got sucked in, I guess. But it's just really cool that you have that connection and now you have that passion for OU sports because it's definitely obvious when you are on the mic for sure. And I talked to Toby Rowland last summer as well. And of course, he is someone that everyone knows his name, his voice, and he is one of my favorite radio hosts for sure. But hearing him talk about how he got started as well, just, obviously kind of similar to you, like you just kind of start doing it on a low scale and then you're like, oh, hey, I like this. And then the next thing you know, you were announcing for the Sooners and you're like, who am I? How did I get here?
Exactly. Yeah. And I had basically done a bunch of Division II stuff while I was in college. I'd done,
Mm-hmm.
some youth sports stuff. When I graduated college, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and started just throwing my resume out and got a conversation with the Citadel, which is a
Oh,
military
yeah. Uh-huh.
institute in Charleston. And they called me back and said, we're not looking for any PA help, but we're just starting a stream because streams were brand new in those
Okay.
days.
Yeah.
And they said, have you ever done play by play? Do you want to do our men's basketball play by play? And it was a voluntary position. They literally didn't have a budget to pay. I got pizza at halftime and Coca Cola, but I did it and it was awful. But my very first play by play gig, I did 2 years of men's Division I basketball.
Wow.
And so it was on the resume. When I moved back to Colorado, I had a D1 program, play by play PA, and that opened up a lot of doors for me with a lot of
Absolutely.
people. And it's just kind of funny how that works.
It really is. Okay, so tell me, so what all do you do for OU right now that people would recognize your voice? Of course, softball. I mean, people can see you pretty easily up in that window. But what else are you currently active in for OU sports?
Right now, that's all I'm
Oh,
doing
okay.
in
Okay.
like a consistent
Regular.
basis.
Okay.
Over the years, I've joked that I was Toby Rowland's stunt double
Yes.
because, and that's really kind of how all of this started. I was doing a little bit of PA announcing as a fill in. My wife and I moved to town in 2018.
Oh, okay.
She's a college softball coach. She took the job at OBU.
Yes.
At the time, she was the youngest head coach in the NCAA. She's a total rock star. So we moved here
Wow.
sight
Okay.
unseen for that opportunity. And so I was filling in a little bit of TV, a little bit of radio, and it just kind of grew to doing, 100 or
Yes.
more events. So over the years is probably the easiest way to say it. I have done just about everything except, football and gymnastics, but I
Oh,
have
okay.
done baseball, radio, TV, public address. I have done softball, radio filling in for Plank when he's
Uh-huh.
unavailable. I obviously have done the PA many years now. For several years, I was the public address announcer for volleyball, and
Okay.
I've done some fill in for volleyball. I've done a bunch of radio fill in on the women's side when Brian
Uh-huh.
Brinkley's unavailable.
Yes.
Been to the Bahamas a couple of times with women's basketball, once
Nice.
with Eric Cole's team, once with Jenny Baranchek's team. A little bit of men's basketball. I've done PA there maybe once or twice. I've done radio there once or twice. Wrestling on TV is a unique
Okay.
story. And I get spoiled because,
Yes.
and Toby probably would tell you the same, Plank would probably tell you the same. Chad McKee is one of the most talented guys.
Yes.
Uh,
Love Chad.
yeah, Sooner Vision and all of those guys make my job so easy because, especially as like the utility guy, the pinch hitter for play by play,
Uh-huh.
I'm often not following sports as intimately as I should if an
Uh-huh.
opportunity were to present itself. There are a lot of times over the years that I've gotten a call literally and they've said, "Hey, can you call a wrestling match tomorrow?
Oh
Can
gosh.
you, whatever." And the key to my success has just been saying yes to all of it.
Absolutely.
But literally, and I joke about this, it's absolutely true. The first college wrestling match that I ever watched, I was calling play by play on Fox Sports. I'd seen a little bit on YouTube over the 20 hours, 24 hours before just to prepare. I'd
Yeah.
learned the scoring. This was pre-chat GPT, but
Oh my gosh.
Google, and
Yes.
there's a number of like Facebook groups with people that you can say, "Hey, I'm calling wrestling for the first time. Give me some tips." And the play-by-play and public address groups are very, very
Awesome.
collaborative.
Yes. Yes.
But OU makes it so easy because, at least on the play by play side, they provide so much notes, all of the sports
Yes.
information directors and communications people. And then typically the color commentators know everything you need to know.
For
So,
sure. Yes.
one of
We
my
have some great
favorite
ones.
gigs, yeah, one of my favorite gigs I've ever gotten to do was tennis on TV for OU. And I'm not a tennis guy, but I have
Yeah.
fallen in love with it. And even more, I love calling it. And I joke about this because when you think about it, tennis is the only broadcast where the play by play is not talking while the game is happening.
That is true.
I literally, my job as play by play for tennis would be, whoever to serve, 15 love.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Nice shot, 30 love. And then kick it off to the color guy. "Hey, Mike, tell me what you saw here."
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely the easiest of the jobs that you would have ever had for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
But right now it's really just softball. Largely that's because my wife is the head coach at UCO, and that's very
Yes.
demanding of her time and our
For sure.
family. And we've got two young girls.
Yes.
So over the years, I've kind of scaled back, but I still do the softball. Absolutely love it. I just think the world of Coach Gasso and her staff. And want to do anything I can to help provide atmosphere and ambiance and experience for the fans, and just give the girls what I think they deserve in that kind
For
of big
sure.
league feel.
Yes.
It's fun for me to get to work in women's sports, especially for that reason, to help
Yes.
provide an experience that is still growing and has so much
Yes.
velocity. And it's just electric to get to be a part of. And I'm
Yes.
pinching myself. We talked about Kinsey Hanson's home
Oh
run.
gosh, yes.
Just over the years to get to be in that seat and witness so many historic Sooner Magic moments.
Yes.
They pay me, but I would literally pay to get to go be a part of those
I
things.
don't blame
It's
you.
special.
Well, I know you mentioned lots of other names. Chad McKee, of course. I have not had him on my show yet, but I need to because I do love him. Plank, of course, I've had him on a couple times to talk softball. And of course, Toby Rowland is like, the GOAT. But just like you said, mentioning all of those names and people that we hear on the radio, the TV, and we recognize out in public. And you guys represent OU sports, and people recognize you too, I'm sure. And so, what a crew we have, and Brian Brinkley as well. You mentioned what a crew that we have that for OU Sports just to call and represent our girls and our kids. And what an honor. Like you said, I would probably pay to be able to do it too if that were my talent. But you mentioning women's sports, obviously, I have a huge heart for that and just supporting women. And I think that that's incredible that you take that opportunity to do that. And then, back to your wife, I'm glad you brought her up because I was not going to get off here without talking about her. And I don't know a ton about her, but of course I know she was at OBU, and then you guys had another baby, and now she's at UC. Uh, and they have done very well this season as well. Tell me exactly what's going on with them. I know they made it to their postseason and they won, but what's going on with them right now?
Yeah, so they just wrapped up last week. They made it to game 3 of the Super.
Okay.
So it's my wife Sam's first year in the MIAA conference, and it is just competitive.
Yes.
Really well coached teams, really
Yes.
talented players, just a buzz saw. And so we didn't really know what to expect. She had a really good team this year, great girls, and they just kind of got hot at the right time.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
they won one or two conference tournament games, earned a spot in the regional, won the regional, and then earned the spot against Missouri Southern for Supers on the road,
Okay.
who had won the conference, pitcher of
Oh
the
wow.
year, just a
Wow.
tremendous lineup, well coached,
Mm-hmm.
and they took game 1. So suddenly
Nice.
you're feeling like we could do this.
Yeah.
The D2 World Series is in Chattanooga, Tennessee every year, and
Okay.
we're suddenly kind of like making plans and clearing calendars and
Yes.
like, hey, this could really be around the corner. Game 2, they came out strong, jumped ahead, but just couldn't hold off Missouri Southern. And then the
Yeah.
same thing happened in game 3. So, heck of a first year,
Yeah.
great foundation to build upon.
Absolutely.
And she just couldn't be happier where she is.
Well, I love that for her. I think that a lot of people will probably recognize her name just from being in the coaching realm.
Yep. So, and it's been interesting for us because my wife is from South Florida and I grew
Okay.
up out west. So, coming
Uh-huh.
to Oklahoma and learning even just
Yes.
the geography of the conferences.
Yes. Yes.
She was in the Great American Conference at OBU,
Okay.
which was primarily Oklahoma and then Arkansas.
Okay.
And now it's a couple Oklahoma schools, but mostly like Kansas and Missouri. So we're
Okay.
having to learn that part of the world
Oh
now.
yes, for sure. Well, I'm not super familiar with other divisions, obviously, but I try to keep up with USAO because we have a former Sooner that is that coach, Jaden Wallace, and then Coach Amber Flores at Seminole State. Try to follow her as well. So I don't always remember who overlaps with who, but I do try to
And
follow
Coach
those folks.
Flo's having a great year. They just won a game at the World
Yes,
Series.
that was yesterday, I believe. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of them. I had Amber on last spring to talk about the Spark and everything. And I've been a big Spark fan since day one. I could not have been more excited to have professional softball in Oklahoma. So I try to make it to several throughout the season. And I can't wait for this season. It's going to be a great one for sure.
Yeah, yeah, they're doing a great job. It's fun. It's been cool to see. I just think the world of Tina Floyd
Yes,
and Destiny
incredible.
Martinez and everybody
Yes,
behind the scenes there and how they have done this and what they've endured over the last few years to get to a
yes,
point where they can position themselves alongside the AUSL. And
yes.
it's an exciting time.
It
And
is.
I hope that Oklahoma supports it and gives it the credit
Me
it
too.
deserves because it's
Me
amazing that
too.
it's here.
It really is. And, Tina Floyd, I had her on last year as well. And I was totally awestruck to be able to talk to her, which she's super down to earth and easy to talk to once you get to know her for sure. But she's done amazing things in Oklahoma. And all of those OU names, former Sooners that we talked, Destiny, Martinez, McElroy, and Coach Amber, of course. And then Jaden Wallace was a part of the Spark as well. I don't know if she still is. But what great talent we've had. And last year that Spark team, and are you still doing stuff for the Spark this summer?
I kind of have filled in over the last couple of
Okay,
years.
okay.
Yeah.
I've seen you
It's
a
just
couple of
so hard. The
times.
summer months are the only time my wife and I get to see each
Oh,
other.
absolutely.
So that's always are we going to do it? Or are we not going to do it?
Yes, I
Thing.
totally understand. I knew I had seen you there before, but I don't
Yeah.
blame you for that. But last year, that Spark team, we had so many OU former players on there, and I'm just like, people get out and support them because they deserve it for sure. Okay, so let's talk about some of your favorite memories. I know we talked a little bit about the Kinsey Hansen home run, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people remember that one for sure in the 11th hour. But you mentioned hanging out with Toby Keith after the World Series. Talk a little bit about that because that was obviously his last victory to share with the softball girls, and what a fun time that was.
Yeah, and I may have misspoken because I need to remember. I think it would have been 23 because I think it was. I remember him on stage saying 7 natty patties, so that would
Oh,
have been
okay. Yes, that would have
23.
been
And
23.
then I
Yes.
think we lost him before the 24.
Did we? Okay, I couldn't remember the timeline. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm a little fuzzy on it, so
Yes.
don't quote me, but I believe he passed before the 24 World Series because I think I remember Coach Gasso making a comment about, Toby would have loved this, that sort
Actually,
of stuff.
yes, I do recall that. I believe now that you've mentioned that.
So the story though, and this is kind of cool for me anyways. I
Mhm.
know many people in Sooner Nation have had personal encounters with Toby Keith.
Mhm.
And everybody's got their reasons for loving, whether it's his music or him as a personality or, him as a Sooner fan.
Mhm.
I was a huge Toby Keith fan growing up.
Uh-huh.
Part of that is the way my voice is positioned. A lot of my favorite songs are either too high or too low for
Oh
me to
yeah.
sing. And I just always felt like Toby Keith was in a range that I could like not be embarrassed trying to get all the way through.
Yes.
So like Toby Keith is some of my go-to karaoke
Yeah.
songs. Huge Toby Keith fan growing up. Anyways, I have forged over the years a bit of a friendship with Jim Gasso. And oftentimes I don't get to be amongst the crowd during the season because I'm up in the World Series is like the only time I ever get to just sit and be a spectator.
Yes.
And I'm always a little awkward because like I don't have a peer group because my peers are either in the press box working or, Garrett and Caitlin down actually on the
Yes.
field. So I just kind of awkwardly will move around during the World Series games.
Yes.
And anyways, over the last few years, I've started hanging out with Jim at the games. He's great. He's always super warm and inviting and introduces me to everybody. And anyways, yeah, I think it was 23. I think it was the seventh national championship.
Mhm.
And after the game, I'm down on the field and I'm kind of standing around a little awkwardly. And Toby Keith is just kind of hanging out.
Oh,
And Jim Gasso comes over and introduces me to Toby Keith. And I think that like legitimized me a little bit in a way
absolutely.
that wouldn't have otherwise.
Yes.
So Toby and I kind of followed each other around through the entire post game
Wow.
celebration,
Yeah.
talked about a bunch of stuff. He was a huge hockey fan, which I did not know. And we talked
Yes.
a little bit about the atmosphere of, the Women's College World Series and how it compared to like playoff hockey.
How cool.
But it was really kind of neat to just, in the middle of all of the chaos of a post national championship celebration, feel like I got a little bit of like individual one on one time with Toby.
Yes, that's so cool.
And one of the really cool stories that he told me was about how they kind of got started with their tradition of celebrating at his bar.
Yes.
Have you heard kind of how that
I have
originated?
not.
So this is at least the way it was told to me by Toby Keith. So it's the way I tell it. Years ago, when they won the first national championship, the way Toby told it is, this was long before you planned an after party.
Yes.
You
Yes.
didn't show up even expecting to win, let
Right.
alone knowing what you would do, right?
Right.
So they win the first national championship. And I know Toby had forged a friendship with Coach Gasso and her family over the years. And so
Yes.
he was a part of things. And they're out in the outfield celebrating like they do. And things kind of start to wind down and families start to get a little bit restless. And I think Coach and the family and everyone started to kind of figure out we just won the national championship. What do we do
What do we
now?
do?
Yeah. And the way Toby told the story is he says, well, I was standing there and I looked at Coach and I said, I've got a bar.
I'll see that going down.
Yeah. And so allegedly that's how, they ended it Toby Keith's, and that's how we ended that night.
Yeah.
And that was the year that he was on stage singing How Do You Like Me Now?
I
And Who's Your
remember that.
Daddy with
Yes.
Jordy Ball and Boone and everybody just up there having a blast. And
That's
so to kind of get to
awesome.
be a part of that and take a picture with him, get to share a moment with him.
That's so cool.
Just it's to me it's kind of a piece of Sooner lore. I feel like everybody that
Absolutely.
is close with OU has a story like that, probably with Toby Keith,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
that's mine.
I love that. That is a really cool story. Definitely a good memory for you to hang on to, given that he's no longer with us for sure. Okay, so I also did want to ask you. You mentioned some non-softball memories that you had. Dane Acker's no hitter against LSU at Globe Life in 2020, and then you did commentary for the Men's College World Series in 23. So those are awesome memories as well. So if you want to talk a little bit about those.
Yeah. Baseball was always my first love. You can see
Yes.
I
Yes.
take a baseball almost everywhere with me. I was honored. I have done tennis and volleyball and basketball and wrestling, and I've over the years I've done men's and women's lacrosse and like just about everything under the
Yeah.
sun. When Toby Rowland called me in 2019 and said, "Hey, I've got a couple of baseball games on the schedule I'm going to have trouble getting to. How
Mm-hmm.
do you feel about doing baseball on the radio?" That was a gift from God for me. Like, just
Absolutely.
was so excited. And
Absolutely.
Toby and Chris and Chad McKee and all those guys over the years have been so good to me, beyond what was necessary.
Yeah.
Being a young kid coming up, that they probably think I would love to have their job someday. They have never gate kept any
That's
notes, any
awesome.
insight, any relationships,
That's cool.
and so it's just been awesome. But yeah, so it got to a point around COVID 2019, 2020, 21, something like that, that I was
Mm-hmm.
essentially calling the first half of the baseball schedule on the
Right.
radio so that Toby could focus his attention and travel on men's basketball.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
when the basketball season would end, he'd step back into baseball and I would
Yes.
focus more on softball PA.
Yes.
During 2020, and they had a great team that year. The second to last week before COVID shut everything down,
Yes.
Dane Acker threw a no hitter against LSU, and I just happened to be the guy on the
That's
radio
awesome.
broadcast.
That's so
So,
cool.
yeah, literally, I could show you because it's right here. I will. You'll like this.
Yeah.
I just happened to have rearranged my office and have this sitting here.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is kind of a shadow box memory I made
How
from
cool.
that no hitter. I shrank down, but it's like the pregame lineup sheet, my
Yes.
scorebook, and then like the postgame box score with
How
just some
cool.
photos.
How
So
neat.
that's typically on my wall. But yeah, that was a really, really special thing. I talked about a bit about the community of announcers and
Yes.
broadcasters, and after that, I uploaded a clip of the audio and a photo to just one of those Facebook groups.
Yes.
I need to go back and find this guy's name, but the last time OU baseball threw a no hitter was like 1984,
Holy smokes.
1986, something like that. And
Wow.
the guy that called that no hitter happened to see my post in one of these
Oh,
public groups and comments. So it's just kind of a really
that's
cool thing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so cool.
Yeah. So, and then that relationship and me calling baseball, I think it was 23, if I'm not mistaken. I had called
Mm-hmm.
much of the season,
Uh-huh.
and then Toby jumped back in and did the rest of the season.
Uh-huh.
But that year, baseball made a run of the World Series,
Yes.
and they went through the Gainesville Super Regional, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And Toby called me on the bus on the way back to the plane and said, "Hey, we're going to Omaha, and I want you to come with us."
Oh, I love it.
And that was a really special moment for me, and to get to work alongside of him for a week. And
How cool.
like I said, he's always been great to me, but if I was ever at a game, it's because he couldn't be. So it was the
Uh-huh.
first time he and I were ever
Yes.
in a venue together, and
That's
to
cool.
watch the way he prepares and to see even how he sets up the equipment and goes through his routines. And I learned so much that week, and,
I
and it was
love
just an
that.
awesome experience.
That is so cool. That is really cool. Like you said, you're usually not working with him, so to get that opportunity was super cool for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, well, one more thing I did want to ask you about because I think this is something that people love at softball. So, kind of switching gears back to that, but the junior PA that is a part of the softball games at home, and I know that Alyssa Parker's little sister has been um, in that role a couple of times throughout the season, and of course, other precious little kiddos. So talk a little bit, how in the world did that start? Do you know, or like how do they pick who does that? Do you know any of that behind the scene kind of stuff? Because we all love hearing that little voice on the PA.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of randomness, I think, to who gets
Uh-huh.
picked. The marketing team, Ryan Majersic for OU,
Yes,
and then
okay, yeah.
Chris Opheim, who actually runs the softball stuff.
Yes.
Previously, it was Caitlin Fournier,
Uh-huh.
who's just tremendous. And so
She
I don't know
is.
where it started, but it's something we've been doing for years. And
Uh-huh.
I always joke about, kind of being a little reluctant to do it. But it's so special and it's so
It is.
fun. And I feel like this year it's kind of taken on a whole new level of engagement with fans,
Yes.
personality. So you asked how it works. Typically the marketing team during the game is walking through Love's Field looking for
Uh-huh.
volunteers, whether it's the whatever,
Yeah.
race we're doing, the
Yeah.
games, and that's one of the things is they're looking for kids to come do the junior
Oh
PA.
wow.
So
Okay. Okay.
if you've got a kid or kids out there that want to get a chance to do that, you just kind of randomly have to find one of the marketing people and ask.
At the right
Some
time.
games they have somebody right out of the gate.
Uh-huh.
There's a little girl named Reynolds that has gotten to do it a few
Yes.
times that is
Yes.
just adorable. The team found her on Instagram like 2 years ago. Her mom had posted a clip and tagged the team, I think, of her going through the roster.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so Caitlin Fournier was the one at that point that said,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, we got that girl to come do junior PA, and she
How
was a
cool.
hit." So it's kind of taken on a personality of its own. They do auditions for the anthem.
Yes.
If we may have to start auditioning kids for junior
I
PA, it
know,
may turn
right?
into a big deal.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, I know you mentioned Caitlin Fournier. Again, she was one of my very first guests on the podcast last spring, and that girl is absolutely incredible. Just hearing her talk about everything behind the scenes that she does, and people don't realize all the things that go into behind the scenes for sure. So it's
My
cool to talk.
favorite Caitlin Fournier thing, and there are so many. She's like a sister to me because we've just spent so
I
many
love it.
hours
I
together in press.
bet. Yes.
Two stories. She and I one time went to California. Again, this might have been like 22, 23. But she and I went, the team hosted a tournament in Southern California early in the year, and they actually took Caitlin and I with them to
Nice.
take like the OU experience on the road.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think we did like 6 or 7 games in one day. And by the end of
Wow.
it, there was literally like line dancing happening in the press box. And we just, doing everything we could to stay sane. So I
I
love
love it.
Caitlin. The coolest thing about Caitlin, and I'm sure there are others out there, but she's the only one in my life. She's responsible for the flyovers.
Yes. Oh, I love talking to her about that. Yes. Super cool.
Yes. So
Yeah.
she is, her family now is Panhandle of Florida,
Uh-huh.
where the Blue Angels
Yes. Yes.
stationed. I'm losing the name of the town right now. Forgive
Pensacola,
me.
I believe.
Pensacola, that's
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
So she's got a tremendous like military respect and appreciation, but she's the only person I know that has an F-16 guy and has a C-130 guy. And it like, you hear about people it's like, "Oh, I've got a roofer and I've
Yes.
got like she's got jet guys." And
Military
it's
planes.
it's really cool.
I love it. Well, I saw her at a men's gymnastics meet actually after her hip surgery, but it was the first time I'd seen her since the CFP game. And so we were talking about that and all of the logistics behind that and everything. And yeah, she's definitely almost a magician at times for sure.
Those guys, truly, it is those people in those roles that make
Yes.
me look like I have any idea what's going on. It's like they're flying an airplane. I've got a
For
script
sure.
in front of me and a clock
Yeah.
and a microphone,
Yeah.
and they're telling everybody in the venue we're going to put this on the video board. We're playing this
Yes.
music. The interns need to get the microphone out to there. And like, they tell me, read this script in this amount of time. And that's kind of my only job. So,
Wow, I love it. Well, I don't want to cut you off. Is there anything else you want to share or talk about before I let you go?
I don't think so. I'm just grateful that you would have any interest in talking to me. And I don't know that
Absolutely.
anybody cares to listen, but I think what you do is awesome. And there's
Thank
so
you.
many great Sooner fans out there. I guess my closing remarks would be that we are so spoiled as
For
Sooner
sure.
fans
For sure.
between the resources that we have. And I know that there's a lot of people that would talk about the have nots, but we've got a lot.
Absolutely.
The people that we have, the leadership, the coaches, the players. My schedule is busy enough that I make time to be a part of these things because I care so deeply about the
Yeah,
people.
for sure.
And it starts at the top, especially with softball. Coach Gasso and her family are just the best human beings on the face of
I
the
love it.
earth.
I love that.
And the impact that they have on young women and their families and their future families and all of that is the reason that I drive an hour one way to go do the things that I
Yes,
get to do.
for sure.
I just believe so deeply in who they are and what they do and the players that they bring in. And that's kind
Yes.
of the point I want to make, I guess, is college athletics has never been more challenging. It's never been a bigger burden. There's never been more eyeballs and social media followings and NIL dollars. And I guess my parting comment is be kind to the coaches, be kind to the athletes. What we have witnessed specifically in softball over the last few years is unreasonable.
It really is.
It is unreasonable.
It
And
is.
the way I articulate it to people is, I grew up around baseball. My wife is a softball coach. I have never seen a team avoid the bad hop. I have never seen a team find a way to get the hit. The things that OU softball does and has done over the last 6, 8 years like need to be studied. It
For
is
sure.
not reasonable how good they have been and how clutch they have been. And
Yep.
we just get so accustomed to that we just expect them to get the
Yep.
hit. We
Yep.
expect them to make the play. And I
Yep.
know they do, and I know coach does. And I know nobody wears those failures harder than those players and those
For sure.
people in the program. So
For
I should stay off social media. I really should.
It's hard. It's hard. Well, I said on my podcast, talking about softball and just everything that we watched, and I said there's a reason why the four-peat had never happened before, and there's only one other team who had done a three-peat, and that was however many years ago. And it's just crazy to think that we've come accustomed to thinking that that's normal and what we should expect. And I'm like, no, that class was special. There's a reason it's never happened before. It will probably never happen again, especially in our lifetime. And just what we've accomplished the last 2 seasons is incredible. And without all that had happened before, we would have been ecstatic, And so, of course, we always want to make it to Oklahoma City. That's obviously where we want to end up. But yeah, it's hard to be realistic when everything has been so superhuman for so long, for sure.
And that's the standard. And I guarantee nobody inside the program is sitting around right now saying, well, we had 4 pretty good years.
Yeah,
We've
right.
afforded ourselves a little bit of some grace.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not at all how they feel.
Not at all. Not at all. Well, I cannot thank you enough for giving me part of your time. I know you think nobody will want to hear you, but I do think that they will, because I love to talk to people behind the scenes and in all aspects of Sooner sports. And you definitely have a lot of great stories to tell. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing them.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Of course.